Hello.
Hi.
We had a silent intro right then. I guess the one that I attached is not the one. So
Oh, no.
add that one in. Sorry for everybody watching. We just I am captain of the struggle bus today, driving that thing right off the cliff, that's for sure. However, I am so excited and blessed to have the wonderful Kat Voleur here with me
Hi.
today for your second appearance on Moss to the Flame.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Of course, you weren't too traumatized by the first experience. So,
No. I had so much fun.
and now you've met me in person too, because we got to
Yeah.
meet you at AuthorCon. So, yeah, no, she's made it through 2 rounds, and so that is you need a T-shirt or something. I made it past Marie. I love that. All right. So, author of Revenge Arc, which I happen to have sitting next to
Oh.
me. Love it so dearly. Awesome, awesome book. Which, by the way, I tell people to read this all the time. When we talk about dark web and shit, I'm like, Revenge Arc, you gotta go. You gotta go read it. So,
Thank you.
yes, author of Revenge Arc, Kat Voleur, is a lover of all things horror. She has been freelancing for 10 years, dabbling in many areas: ghostwriting, editing, curating, translating, and dungeon mastering. Now it seems like she's settled into her true love, which is writing. She approaches horror writing a bit like she approaches video games, as a completionist. She writes everything from subtle gothic horror to splatterpunk and apologizes for none of it, which I fucking love. She wants to experience all of the realms of this beautiful genre. When she's not at her desk, you can find her relaxing with a small army of rescued felines, whom you can find pictures of on her website, catvalor.com, which I will make sure to link in our show notes. And super interesting, a little final note added onto your bio. She is also has a deep passion for studying fictional languages, which
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and I think that's wild and awesome, and we're definitely gonna have to talk about that. But the reason that we're together today is you have some exciting news. What
I
what is to
do.
come in the next week or so for you, Miss Cat Velour?
In about a week, I am releasing my second slasher horror press title called My Apologies to Tanya Grace. It is available for pre-order right now. It will be out on the 15th, and I'm excited about it. Pride Month, Pride Month
Yes,
release.
yes, that is awesome. So I have the little blurb right here, and then we're gonna jump right in and talk about Tanya Grace.
Right.
So Tanya Grace is missing, and nobody seems to care. Oh. When aspiring novelist Mallory Brennan moves back to her hometown to focus on her writing, the last thing she wants is to get tangled up with anyone from her past. Don't we all know that feeling? We small town folk people.
Yeah.
This proves impossible when Mallory becomes the only person who can see Tanya's ghost. Repressed memories begin resurfacing, and Mallory finds herself racked with survivor's guilt. Was she somehow responsible for Tanya's death? Why else does she find herself so haunted? Mallory seeks the answers along with justice for Tanya. But what will it truly take for her to rid herself of this ghost for once and all? That is exciting. So I want to know what inspired the story and the characters of My Apologies to Tanya Grace.
Well, with it, you know, it's one of those you get told to write what you know a lot, which I think is how we end up with so many books about writers. I have a lot of very niche interests that I've written about that I try to get marketed, and I feel like people are interested in the ones about writers, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it's because I know that the best, or what, but it's always easier to get through characters that, have that writing connection with me, as opposed to characters that, play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
Which is
Um,
its whole other storytelling format in and of itself. Like D&D and
yeah.
all that. My husband does that. And I want to be a D&D'er. Like I really want, I know that it would all consume my life. So I just can't. But I love that. And I think too, there's a lot of um not just tropes, but those personality traits that you can really tap into when you're writing about, the writing character, how they interact
Yeah.
socially, how they, going back to the hometown. So that I would like to know, do you feel like you put your own kind of fears and thoughts into this book?
Yes. It's very based off of my fears and my kind of tendency to overthink things. I think last time I was on here, we talked about Revenge Arc, which is also about a writer, and I feel like that fictional writer was a lot more like me than Mallory is.
Right.
But this is based a lot more off of just that fear of constantly overthinking. It's a lot about regret and, not being able to do enough and how that kind of comes back to haunt you, I guess.
I love that. That's almost like a love line. And I think it's cool too how you kind of zero in on these journeys with your book. So we had Revenge Arc starting
Yeah.
out with like the whole revenge, and then you say regret. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, we're getting a little bit of a pattern here. I kind of like that. That's cool. So, something to think about for the future of writing. That's pretty cool. So what kind of research? I know with Revenge Arc, you really had to dive into dark web and all these these online things and that whole world. So what kind of research did you have to do for My Apologies to Tanya Grace?
Uh, I would say as much as I loved doing the deep web stuff, I would say that this was a lot easier to research, because Mallory and I are very different. So it was a lot about kind of nailing down like what her tastes were in fiction, like who she wanted to compare herself to, like what kind of writer she would emulate. Because this is written as, I don't want to call it like an epistolary thing, but it is kind of written like as her sorting through her feelings to herself as like a journal entry sort of, you know.
Cool.
So it was a lot about figuring out. I read a lot of things that I wouldn't normally read. I kind of tried to narrow in on what her reading preferences would be. And then there was a lot of, because I also grew up, I was born in a very, very small town, but it was out west. And it was not applicable. And I did kind of grow up partially in a small Ohio town, which is where this it's a fictional town in Ohio that this takes place in, but not being a lover of Ohio, I had to, like, go investigate things that were, like, close to where I grew up that I had just never bothered to go to, like,
Right,
to
right.
kind of
Getting
get
that
that
town
feeling,
feel. Yeah.
and
I
then
get
I felt dumb because it's like, I should know all of these places already, like.
Listen, I literally use a GPS around my hometown. Like I cannot. I just
Yeah,
cannot. People are like, "Don't you know how to get?" No, I don't.
no.
I if it
Know
is
where the
not in
movie
my
theater and the
yeah,
bookstore, and that's enough,
yeah.
like.
I know where my favorite restaurants are. I know where the library and the bookstores are, and that is where I'm gonna go. Like I constantly. It's funny. So do not apologize. You do not have to know anything outside of your own scope of what you do every day. That's for sure. So I love that you kind of segued into my next question. I know that we've talked about kind of the differences and similarities in our own writing styles. And you brought up, how you immerse yourself in because Mallory is such a different character from what you've written before. The other one you didn't have to do is you just kind of looked inside. You were like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pour my own self into this character, my own trauma, my all that. So I find it really interesting that you kind of set the tone for yourself by reading similar books that your character would read. So I'm just
Yeah.
interested to hear what were those books? Like what kind of music, what kind of vibes that are different from your vibes in order to form that character, Mallory.
Mallory is a lot, and it's funny because we're seeing Mallory at her, like, worst in the book, but she is a much softer person than me, and I think some of this stayed in, like, the final draft of the book, where it's like she really likes magical realism is her genre of preference. Like that's the kind of writer that she wants to be, and she likes a lot of classics. But like her classics and my classics don't overlap that well because I like she mentions Jane Austen in the book. Like she likes a lot of like beautiful prose and like the Bronte sisters, and so it was interesting to like go through and because I was aware enough of like the more romantic classics that I knew that this was an aspect of Mallory that I wanted to bring into the book, where she has this style of writing that she really hopes to emulate. But I also had not read enough Jane Austen. I felt like at the time that I started this, that I was like, I should not be doing this. So I had like one of my first steps for writing this like weird little horror novella was to sit down and read like Sense and Sensibility and Persuasion
Yay!
and just like some of the ones that I hadn't gotten to yet. So and
Awesome.
I
It sounds like Mallory and I would vibe. Like,
it's it's so funny because like such a little percentage of that made it into the final book, but it helped get me into the headspace to,
yeah,
to be
ab-
Mallory for a little bit.
absolutely. I think a lot of people I hear sometimes they'll listen to certain music or they'll watch films or, just having that kind of whatever inspiration that they're going to take with them into writing. And I can't remember, I'm one of those types that cannot listen to music while I'm writing because squirrel, like it's not. So are you a listen to music type?
So I used to not be because if there's music that I like enough to put on repeat, I'm singing along and dancing and having a good time. And
Right.
I have found that there are a handful of albums and they end up on all of my writing playlists because sometimes I do, like playlists for different
Yeah.
characters and stuff. I have one for My Apologies to Tanya Grace, but they consist of like the same core like 5 albums because for whatever reason I can listen to those albums and still focus enough to write. I don't know if I just know them really well or if they're not as, like, sing-along-y, but,
They're just like
like
comforting background music, like
but I
vibe.
just put them in the background now and, like, Pink Floyd's The Wall. Like, I always end up, like, listening to The Wall while I'm writing. Uh,
Okay, I like it. I mean, that's vibe inducing for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and,
So
lately, the X soundtrack also, like, the score to the film X, it's
yeah.
like that very often is on in my office all the time.
Okay.
'Cause it's just like a mood piece.
Yes. No, it is. It's heavy and it's kind of, yeah, that's probably why when you say Mallory's not going through a very good time in this
She's
book,
a
I mean, if you're listening to X, then I can see why. Like
yeah.
that kind of brings it all together for sure. So, when you were writing this novella, about what would you say the typical time frame of writing a novella for you is? Do you have a certain word count you try to get to each day, or do you just write until you've gotten a scene accomplished, or how does that kind of shake out for you?
It works very differently. I feel like the ones that I get published, that I get to go talk about are all kind of like fever dream exceptions to the rule. Like, I sit down and I write every day. Depending on what I'm working on, it'll be a word count or, like, I wanna get 1 chapter done or, 1 short story or, whatever I'm working on for the day. But and this was true of Revenge Arc too, because Revenge Arc I wrote during the 24-hour novel writing challenge, and then,
Whoa.
and this one wasn't quite that way, but I had the idea because the entire story in canon is written over 2 days, and I was like and this was before I knew that the 24-hour novel writing challenge was a thing, or I might have saved it, but I had the bright idea. I was like, "I'm not doing anything this weekend. I could lock myself in my office and see feasibly how much I could type over 2 days, like, and
Yes.
that'll be how long it is." Like,
I love this manic creation. Like, that's amazing. Yes,
and
yes.
you can kind of see it, I think, because the first half of the book, like it's been through several rounds of edits to make it smoother, but the first half of the book is a lot more lush and descriptive and, there's a lot more exposition to things where you can tell like where that first day was. And then the second day, it's like I've got to get this story out. I have like I'm halfway through my time. I'm not halfway through the story. have the rest of it like real
Go
fast.
time. Yeah, it's go time. I love that. I have only ever done such a fast writing experience one time, and that was when Bert and I were working on Smutton of all things. I mean, but it was because we were trading the chapters back and forth. And so he would write a chapter and then I would write a chapter and he would, and so we were just passing it back and forth and it was so fun. We wrote that whole little novelette in 3 days.
That
And
is
so
so
just
fun.
like it was so fun. So I get it, but it becomes more unhinged as it goes
It
because that's,
does.
yeah, that's the style of like after I love it. It's like, sleep deprived and all of that. That I feel like that's a whole subgenre in and of itself. We're gonna
It
make
is.
that a subgenre.
I would love that.
Yeah, unhinged. We'll just call it unhinged. It'd be great. I love that. Okay, so how long did it take you to complete the first draft? Like you got that raw, uncut, you know, 2 days situation.
Yeah.
And from that point until publishing, really, how long did it take?
It took a long time. This was, it was one that I sat on for a while because it ended up being a lot darker, I think, than I had planned on. In my head, this was just like a fun I don't wanna say, like, fun, I guess, but it was kind of a sweet little ghost story, it
Mhm.
was not I honestly didn't know that it was going to be 20,000 plus words. I thought it was just going to be a very, very long short story, like a novelette length at most. So I was kind of surprised at how, like, large it was and how, like, sad it got. It felt like it got just really sad, and, so, yeah, I sat with it for a long time. I just kind of put it away in a drawer for a while. It was like, I don't this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I
You're
wanna do
grounded.
with
Like
this.
you are grounded. Go in
Yeah,
the
like, go in the drawer. That's kind of what it was like, and I didn't think about it for a while. And then submission season came up, and it was last year. A lot of people were looking for sad ghost stories, and I was like, I have one of those that I guess I should be typing, and I think the format of it makes it okay that it's a little bit messier. Usually edits take me like longer than and, it took me longer than 2 days, so I guess it still took longer, but I feel
right.
like usually edits take, like, months and months and months for me to finish, and this one, I would say it took, like, a few weeks, probably not a full month for me to clean up just because knowing that my character was also in a state where she's going to be very frantic and the pacing is gonna be uneven and, it gave me a lot of leeway, and that was something that, my editor, David Jack, also said while he was going through his edits, where he was like, "I don't wanna clean this up too much," you
Right.
know?
You wanted to have that manic feel, like that raw,
Yeah.
uncut, like, "I'm really anxious and stressed out" feel. Yeah, I know, I totally get that. So,
So
one of my favorite things about, um, Revenge Arc was the cool interior designs that you would do, and I love a good interior design moment in a
Oh,
book
yeah.
also, yeah. And so, just some of the really cool, like, handwritten letters and texts and that sort of thing. So I'm just wondering, do you have that incorporation in this story as well, or is it more of that traditional formatting?
It's more of that traditional formatting. In the canon universe, this is all written on an iPad, so there was not a lot of like back and forth because even the sections like that are text messages and that are Facebook messages, it's Mallory typing that out onto like
Right.
a screen. But we did. This is actually the first book that Slashik let me do the interior for. And I
Oh,
got a little bit carried away. So uh
shocker. Not.
they reined me in a lot, and one of the things about it was, like, this is all on a screen, it's all similar formatted, there's no reason to get too crazy with it, but I did because we have this gorgeous, gorgeous cover art from Christy Aldridge,
Mhm.
and, that's all newspapers, it's like a newspaper collage of Tanya's face coming out of the cover. So, I actually when we were doing the chapter headings, I reached out to Christy to get the same assets that she had used for the newspaper collage on the front so that I could incorporate that into the chapter headings, to make
Very
them
cool.
prettier.
I love shit like that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
divine, divine, divine. Awesome. So
So
how
it's subtle, but
long
it's there.
Yeah. So you said 20,000 words. So
Yeah.
about how many pages is this book then?
It's I think it's around 150 somewhere.
Awesome. And I really feel like there's a I don't want to say trend because they've been around for a long time, but there's kind of a thirst for novellas right now. Are you feeling
Yeah.
that too? Because we're all so busy and we're all like, but we want to read each other's work. And so
Yeah.
I find myself when I'm looking at my towering TBR that's gonna knock me over one day and that's how I'm gonna die. Like what a poetic end would that be? Knocked
I'm sure
over
it's
by
gonna be the same.
PBR finally took her out. But I find myself reaching for novellas because I'm like, I can just bash through this really quick. And so I really feel like that's kind of a market right now. Like
I think
not
so.
not yeah, it's a pretty heavy market. So let's talk about challenges when you're writing such dark, intense, like kind of introspective psychological content in your books. This character is really struggling with guilt
Mhm.
and obviously being the only one to see the ghost of a former friend is like I would be thinking like am I fucking crazy? Granted, I would be like, "Oh, well, okay, that fits." But how do you find that impacts you at all, or how are you able to separate or maintain a good balance when you're writing such dark content?
I do think that there are certain books it's really weird the stuff that does and doesn't get under my skin, you know? There was a lot of stuff in Revenge Arc, and especially in the rough draft that was, like, more graphic that didn't bother me. This one made me sad, like, I was kind of bummed out when I finished this one. It was like, that's I went to and part of it was because I didn't expect it to be as heavy as it was, but I mean, also, there's just, like, a lot of introspection because you sit down with the idea, like, guilt is a very relatable feeling, and I would like to, put forward a situation where someone feels bad and it starts to impact all these other aspects of their life. And then, you write that character for like a weekend nonstop and you come out and you're like, I've also made a lot of mistakes. Like I feel bad
My
too.
guilt. Yeah, that's heavy. Oh my god,
Um,
that is.
but it is, I mean, like self-care is really important. And I took it not as much when I wrote it because I love drafting more than anything in the writing process. Like that just makes me happy. So it was easy to move on to like a draft of a different thing and I was fine. But while I was editing this, it was like I took a lot of breaks. A lot of those 3 weeks I spent playing like Stardew Valley in the background, like instead of actually editing,
Right,
where it's just
right.
like if I start to feel sad, I'm gonna go work on something else for a bit or,
Yeah.
hug a cat or like
Oh, definitely, definitely. And that actually was a question I was going to have is how you balance because I mean these are fast timelines that you're talking about, editing over weeks and writing within days, like that's wild.
yeah.
So how do you balance that with all of the freelancing work that you do? Do you like set a schedule for the day or do you just say, okay, I need to accomplish these tasks, they fall as they may, or how do you approach that freelance lifestyle?
I'm always trying to find a better balance of it. Usually if I'm not working on any kind of a deadline, freelance just takes front row seat to stuff, like I have a handful of commissions that I'm working on today and it's like I'm gonna do those before I get any editing done realistically, and then I'm probably gonna go to bed so that they're done for tomorrow and I can try editing again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, with something like this, because I had a deadline, I had kind of, I had a market that I really wanted to submit this to, and they actually, I won't name the market by name, but they actually told me it was too sad, and I was like, oh, I okay, whoops.
Well, there you go.
Okay. But I had a market in mind that I thought this story was gonna be a really good call for, and they were closing their submission guidelines. So it was like, I have, like 3 weeks
Yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of get this edited, and I woke up and I did that pretty much every day, and then because it was heavier than my usual stuff, it was like I'd take a lot of breaks, but I had 2 long editing sessions, like, right when I got up and right before I went to bed that I would kind of, like, work on it through, and
Yeah.
I just got
Okay.
it done, and I am kind of like that procrastinating last minute panic productivity
We're
person.
doing do the best work when it's the last moment. Yes, when
Yeah.
pressure's on. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
I
the
can
same way.
have months to get something done, and I won't until, like, the last couple weeks, and
Same,
then
same.
I'm
Oh, I mean,
very
even a
efficient.
couple of I feel like a couple of weeks is being even gratuitous. I'm like, "Oh, shit, that's in 3 days. I need to do something about that." Yeah, yeah. A deadline is a happy place for me because I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I can get to that. I need to get to that goalpost for sure." I love that. So, we know the tone, the atmosphere of the story, overall sort of dread, or do we have is there a thread of hope in there, or what would you say is the overarching
Um, Manic,
atmosphere?
I guess. There's a I would describe it very much is a character study. So it's one of those, you can tell that Mallory's upset, but a lot of it a common denominator in the early reviews, people have said that they've just kind of been along for a ride with Mallory, where like they're just kind of like worried about her, because
Right,
I think reacts to things not in a way that a normal person would react to these things, but you're seeing it through her eyes.
right.
So I don't wanna say it's like I don't think it goes as far as the unreliable narrator trope, but you are just seeing a lot of conclusions drawn where you're like, "I don't know if
That's not
I don't know if
normal,
this is
sis.
how I'd
That's not
handle this."
typical. So kind of not unreliable, but maybe unconventional. Maybe an
Unconventional
unconventional.
narrator.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
That's a
Um,
really good way to frame it, because
yeah,
that is one thing that I've had, like, a lot of people where it's like, "This was really interesting, but, like, what's up with her?" Like,
like, get her a therapist. She need help. She need help.
that should have been the title of the book, honestly. It's
She
like,
she
"Mallory
need help.
needs help."
Mallory needs help. That's the sequel. Like Mallory got help. She went to therapy. Very cool. So, what do you feel like were some comparison titles that are kind of like this? I know you read Jane Austen and those sorts of things, but it only sprinkled in a little bit. So,
Yeah.
do you think there are any kind of similar books like Mallory?
Wow, I'm usually really good at comps. I usually come in prepared with like a handful of comps. I don't really have any off the top of my head for this one, which is crazy because that's usually when I'm like mood boarding a project, I sit down and it's like, here are kind of some inspirational things
Hmm.
for me to look at. And I don't really have that for this one. This is not um it's not I'm not going to say I've invented a new subgenre of horror, but it's not
Hey,
a subgenre that I read a lot of horror.
right.
Um,
It sounds like to me almost like, and I haven't seen either one of these shows, so I could be totally fucking wrong, but it feels like the chaotic vibes and like the angsty heaviness of like Euphoria
mm,
meets Yellow Jackets with the kind of regret that, you know what I'm saying? Like the grief and the regret and the dead friend
yeah.
and whatever. Like, I don't know, it kind of feels like that sort of vibe. I mean, you would classify this book as solidly adult, right? Not young adult.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Okay.
well, so maybe that's the core of the issue. This is a lot like stuff that I was reading, um, at a young adult age.
Okay.
Um Which I reached, I guess, in this in my young adult era, I was, like, 14. I was not an adult yet,
Right.
which I
Right.
guess explains a lot. I guess in that vein, maybe, like, Ellen Hopkins could be, um, like, a comparable maybe, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, like, there's a very
Oh,
psychological
yeah.
element to the ghostiness
Yeah. Cool.
of
I like
it,
that.
but
See, there you
but
go. The
yeah,
wheels are already turning. Vibes.
yeah.
I
But I could see, like, a young adult reading this with, like, the other stuff that young adults maybe shouldn't be reading yet, you know?
Mhm. That we all know that they are because we did it too, and
'Cause
yeah,
I did it too, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I know I love the category, and then it was like, really though? Because most of us were already, reading our adult books when we were in the 5th grade. Like, it's just that's how it goes. So, and
Yeah.
I think of that sometimes when I'm classifying my books, or it'll be like, what age do you recommend? And I'm like, I usually joke how my stuff is 18 and older, 18 and older, 18 and older. But then I start realistically thinking about it and I'm like, my 14-year-old ass would have been reading that 100. Like,
Every
it's
time.
like I know I'm out there still. It's so funny. So, so I guess content warning for anybody.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting thought. Do you typically have like a trigger warning, content warning associated with this book because of the grief and the heavy psychological component with it? Or what do you think about that?
I do put I put like a gentle content warning on this one where I don't think that it's not graphic. It's not, there's nothing explicitly on page that I think would be actively triggering, but I do say that, if you're someone that is sensitive to um like domestic abuse or sexual assault, those are both content warnings that I would have for this because they're so intricately tied to the
Mhm.
themes of the book,
Right.
um, that it's kind of hard to remove them from that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I feel like, if it's driving some of that psychological turmoil and the trauma that your character is experiencing, then I think a gentle warning is a totally appropriate way to address that. I like the way you put that, kind of a gentle warning.
yeah,
Just a note, guys. Like,
which is
unless
kind of
you're yeah, unless you're like me and send you into one of my books blind and it's like, no, just good luck to you. Like,
yeah. And that's, I kind of try to have respect for the reader as well. Like I believe in trigger warnings if you need them, but I also cuz I'm someone that goes in blind completely to everything that I read as often as possible because I like to be surprised.
me
But
too.
like when I am sad, like if I'm not in a great mental place, that's not the time I'm going to be doing that, like
Exactly.
so I do have kind of like that trust with my reader also that like if they're in a bad place, hopefully they won't go into this book completely blind and like
Right, right. I know we need like a sticker or something to put on our books. Like this is a good blind one, or this one's probably not the one.
yeah,
Like,
this isn't like a good
go read some rom com or something. That's not for you right now.
yeah.
I like that. So, where would you say, as far as genre specific? I know we're kind of dancing around in like multiple genres here. Would you classify it more on the psychological horror side, or would you classify it more on the paranormal side because there's ghosty activity?
I would I would classify it a little bit more on the psychological side just because of the approach to the haunting, just because it is more of a character study first and foremost. Um, and I think you really don't get to the events of the book without Mallory being in a deeply upset state, So
Okay.
that is kind of how I feel like I classify all of my stuff as psychological, but it
Which is good.
just
That's good. It's fine. You go into the inner psyche. Like I love it.
yeah.
Your writing is great. Yeah. So then speaking of other stuff,
Yeah.
what other projects are you kind of working on right now?
So I'm working on a series that I'm really excited about. I'm waiting to hear from my editor about like when we can release the first one. I don't have like a date for it yet, but it's coming up. I'm
Ooh,
working on a series of books called Covered in Darkness, and they are all sponsored. They are all rescued books. We saved the cover art first. Everyone bought like one piece of cover art that was about to be deleted, and they are being adapted into like a series of standalone novelettes. And the first one is with my editor currently. It's called Still Waters. I'm really looking forward to that.
that sounds
Um,
awesome. I love the rescuing book cover
I
idea.
know.
That's fun. Like, all
It's
right.
such a fun because artists clear out their galleries all the time, and then those art pieces are just gone, and it was really fun to step in and we raised I don't remember offhand like how much money we raised for the artist, but we got like a bunch of money together for that and we rescued a bunch of covers and it was a fun experience that we went through last year. I'm really excited to like see those books finally start coming out into the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. Oh,
Um
that's awesome. They get their chance to live
yeah.
and be on the shelf, and that's so fun. That's
So
awesome.
those are on the horizon. I'm really looking forward to those. I have The other big thing that I'm working on right now is I'm working with Ruth Anna Evans. She is releasing one of my books later this year, which is, I think, if you like the ghost element of Tanya Grace, but we're like Mallory's crazy though. Like I would love less of Mallory.
Right, right.
um, I think that our book that's coming out this winter is going to be a lot more because it's very ghost heavy, you know,
So were
doing
you
2 ghost books in the
the
year.
one novel, the novella that she was looking for, which she kept posting about? Was that you?
That was it was in collaboration with me, because she actually chose 2, but the first spot was me.
Oh, fun. Awesome.
I'm the winter spot, and then the one novella is the fall spot, I believe. So,
Cool. Very cool. Well, that
exciting.
is so exciting. I love her.
That's
I
on the
think and
horizon.
that's gonna be a great collaboration. You got that's gonna
It
be
is.
one to watch out for sure. Very cool. So is
The
she
art
doing
is gorgeous and
one?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Cool.
I've already seen the cover. The cover is great. I'm looking forward to getting to announce that one officially, but it's on the horizon.
Yay. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we have to talk about AuthorCon because
Yes.
AuthorCon, where we finally got to meet, yay. That was your, now correct me if I'm wrong, that was your first in-person event, right?
Yeah, that was my first in-person event.
So yeah, let's talk about that. What was that like? I mean, I remember our first vend. I used to vend as an artist years and years ago, and so I feel like that newness feeling has worn off at this point. Now I'm like a motorized, like a machine, going through it. But
Yeah.
how was your experience with that? What were your big takeaways?
I will say I am really lucky because it was my first in-person author event, but I have helped other vendors at other conventions. Like my parents used to be like when I was really little, my parents used to sell t-shirts at stuff. And so and then, like I went to Friends with Artists Alleys and I was like the muscle for a lot of people at
Okay.
conventions. So but I was really scared to like be the person that was there at the table. And AuthorCon is such a big event. It's not like the biggest event
But
because
it's,
StokerCon,
yeah,
but like it's a big one. It's like I've been hearing about it since the first one and it always gets so much praise online and stuff. And it was really scary to suddenly be like, my first one is gonna be this big, like out of state crazy event.
yeah, huge.
Um
Well, and I feel like there's a big difference between AuthorCon and StokerCon in that when I think of AuthorCon, I think of really getting to see the readers. Obviously it's
yeah.
like a big family reunion anywhere you go, like a horror type convention. But AuthorCon, I feel like I got to meet so many more readers. And then at StokerCon, it's like hanging out with the buds, like I
Yeah.
know people are vending there too, but it's so much more focused on the classes and the all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
um yeah, AuthorCon is a great event to do your inaugural tabling at because what an awesome experience that was. And again, I feel bad for you because you were across the way from me, so you had to hear my spill 10,000 times.
No, it was great, because I was close to someone that I knew. You and I get along really well, and I poached a lot of your people. Like you had you had a lot of traffic coming through, whereas I was like socially awkward, like hiding in the corner behind Brian Smith, and
No,
then
and
like
which is okay, which is okay. But I'm the people-y type too,
yeah,
like I like to draw. I'm like a succubus. I want him to come to my table. But then Bert, he is not. I'm like his social shield. And so it's a good balance for us. And I try to say that to people that are around us. I'm like, I'm gonna get on your nerves with all of my, but then you can poach them after. That guy bring them to us and then I send them over to you. Like
it
I'll send,
worked really well.
yeah.
Because my extrovert partner couldn't make it, so it was like just me, like trying to sell books, and I'm like, oh no. I don't know what I'm doing. I did really well though, I think, for my first convention, and honestly, like, I came home and bought tables at, like, 2 other conventions, like
You were inspired. You were like, "This is
yeah.
so fun."
I was like,
Yes,
"I can do this is gonna be okay."
of course. And
Because
so
it
you're
was
gonna be
great
tabling at
experience.
TBR Con,
Yes, I'm gonna
which
be
is
tabling
so
at TBR Con.
exciting. Yes. coming to our Knoxville homeland. And I feel like TBRCon is going to be like AuthorCon mini, like not even mini because it's like the same. I feel like it's going to be very similar vibes. A lot of the same people are going to be there too.
A lot of the same people are gonna be there,
Yeah.
so
So that's going to be a lot of fun. You guys are going to be so disappointed in Knoxville life.
Oh.
But it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. It's like I think the convention center is like 20 minutes from my house. So if Knoxville's lame, we'll
Oh.
come to Castle Lestrange and everybody can hang out and we'll have a good time. It'll be fine. Totally fine.
I will say that's actually how I ended up at TBRCon because I have a friend that lives, like, right by the convention center that's like, "They're doing an event, like, we've gotta go, like, everyone come, stay, like, we're doing this convention," and I was like, "Okay."
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Your friend, who is your friend? I feel like I'm gonna
Uh,
have to meet him now.
Tasha Reynolds, actually,
Oh,
from the
yes.
Sinister
Yes.
Scoop. She lives, like,
Yes.
right there.
That. Oh
Yeah,
my God. Small
and
world. Small
And
world.
she was like, "We should do a Sinister Scoop table," and I was like, "Okay," like, and then, it occurred to us at some point, like, we don't really have Sinister Scoop books, for the author convention, and then she's like, "That's okay, because you have books, like, bring some books," and I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
No,
figure it
that's
out."
you'll have promo materials and be like, "Hey, this is what we do," and yeah, that's cool. You can have one of the awards sitting there, which
Yeah.
we should probably talk about
Oh,
Sinister Scoop.
yeah,
Let's talk about
of
the
course.
awards open for voting right now, right? Talk
Yes.
to us about that.
So Tasha Reynolds and I over at the Sinister Scoop, which is a resource website for spooky writers, spooky artists, spooky creators. We've branched out a lot. We started as like four spooky writers, and we're assembling a whole team now.
I love it.
Um,
Like the Avengers. It's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
But yeah, we wanted to put on our own award show just for people that like there were I don't want to say controversies, but there were a lot of grievances, I guess, with smaller award shows this year where it was just like there were some false pretenses and drama behind the scenes and stuff. And we just wanted to put together something for the community where it was like let the community pick who they want to vote for, let them pick, like let them do the voting all themselves and just
Yeah,
like let's celebrate all of the people in the indie horror community and put together an award show. So we are hosting the Golden Scoop Awards and we've gotten like the traffic on this has been so insane. We've had almost like we've had over 1,000 people now vote in this
that's
and
awesome.
for just, like, a really small little website, we've been amazed
No, that's
at the
fantastic.
turnout.
I keep seeing it everywhere, and I'm like, "Go, Sinister Scoop, go!" Like I'm always so proud. I'm so excited because it really is like just by the people for the people, the way it should be. Like
Yeah.
no bullshit behind the scenes. No, like there's no rigging going on. You know what I mean? Like it's just a good old fashioned contest. I love it.
The one regret, I don't know if Tasha's gonna get mad at me for this, for pulling back the curtain too far, but we did have we had, like, a diverse horror category, and because we didn't have rules, we were like, "Whatever horror means to you, whatever, like, indie means to you, like, anyone that you think is not appreciated enough, like, vote for. We'll put them on the
Yeah,
ballot, go for it." There's a real chance that one of our golden scoops is going to go to a Stoker Award-winning author this year. We might have the guidelines might have been a little bit too loose there.
okay.
Um, but you know what? The people have spoken, and I'm not mad.
I mean, it is what it is. It's okay. And I
Well,
mean, if that's what the people are reading, that's what the people are reading.
that's what the
So
people are reading. We were laughing about it behind the scenes though, where it's like, can you just imagine like a golden scoop award sitting next to like a Bram Stoker?
oh my god, that's amazing. That's actually amazing. The thought of having no, I that would what an honor that would be. Like, hello.
We've been laughing about that so hard. It's like, well, next year maybe we'll
You know,
focus a little more on the indie stuff. But I mean, for a first year, for a first award show, and it's
that's awesome. No, that's awesome. So when does the voting close for that?
the voting closes in about a week. I should know the exact date, but I don't. I
Okay.
know we're doing the award show on the 22nd. So
Fun. So is that going to be like a live streamed event or?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're doing a live stream event. We are dressing up. We're going to be we're going to bring I don't know what Tasha's going to bring. I'm going to bring champagne. I'm taking it very seriously, like a fancy award show.
Yeah, like the Grammys. I am
Yeah.
obsessed with this. I love it. And I went and I voted the other day and I saw some of mine and Bert's little work. And I was like, oh, well, thank you, people. I mean, even just being nominated is like, that's so exciting. That
It's
makes me
so nice.
feel good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it I recently pulled my works because it was again, we didn't have like rules for this. I got nominated a couple times and I stepped back. I was like, that is so sweet, but like these are
Yeah.
my award shows. I'm not gonna award one to myself. So like we pulled me
Create
from
your
the
own
ballot.
content.
But it was such, like it was such an honor, though, just because it's like,
Yeah.
these are from your peers, and it's not like I feel like some of the bigger awards, especially in this is more of a sci-fi fantasy thing, I guess, than a horror thing, but
Mhm.
a lot of the, like, literary awards feel, like, very politically based. There's a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
schmoozing and it's like, it's really nice to know that someone that I know personally probably was like, I remember this book and liked it. Like,
Yes.
that's so sweet.
I feel like
Um,
it's that way with reviews too. Like we love
yeah,
every review, but then but
one.
almost in a different way though, because it's like with reviews when it's people that I know, I'm like, are they saying that just because they know me and we're friends? But when it's a total stranger and it's like, oh my God, this person has no buy-in. Like they don't have to like it or not. And I feel like that it's the same kind of feeling of like recognition and like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, somebody likes it. Which is super exciting. So I
it
love it. I
is.
think you guys are doing awesome stuff with Sinister Scoop, and it has been kind of growing at a breakneck pace recently. So
Yes.
that is exciting. And you do a podcast with that one or no? I can't remember.
No, not currently. We had, before we had the Sinister Scoop, actually, Tasha had a cryptid podcast,
Yes.
that actually has kind of morphed into the Sinister Scoop. I took over the website and now it's out of control.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about getting the podcast back to do more author interviews and creative things, and people do miss the cryptids because that's where a lot of people started reading was like with all the
Yeah.
scripted information, so
Oh yeah. That my 6-year-old will get in the car and he'll be like, "Can we listen to Cryptids, Mommy?" Like that's he wants to listen to those little audio shows that are telling the local cryptids, or he just loves them all, like all of them. So I'm like, yes, this is our gateway into horror. We're here. We've made it. We're finally there. That's
totally
awesome.
unrelated. My partner and I are going on vacation in, like, 2 weeks, and he let me choose the vacation spot. I chose Loveland, which is home of the Frogman.
That's
I was like,
amazing.
"Let's go look for the Frogman on vacation," and he was like, "What?"
Okay, so I'm not as familiar with the
But
Frogman cryptid. You got to tell. Is this like a full-sized frog man? Like,
he's like a 2 to 3 foot bipedal frog creature who might be a wizard that has
oh,
been spotted. He like people have seen him with a wand and they're like, so we assume he does magic of some kind. And I'm like, yes.
that kind of sounds like one of my
I love
ex-boyfriends.
it.
So, like I short frog. I mean, yeah. So tell him I said hey. Like
I will.
that is funny. So where is the frog man? Is that like north, south, or
He lives in Loveland, Ohio, which is
right?
south of me, but I'm like way up far north. So
That is fun. Loveland. I
yeah.
didn't realize. So we went on a little field trip with the Atlanta Horror Writers Association chapter before my Tennessee chapter existed.
Okay.
And we joined them at the Bigfoot Museum in
Oh.
like Blue Ridge, Blue Mountain, Georgia, somewhere. In Georgia. We went in Georgia. And I
Yeah.
did not know, okay, that apparently they have a map of all of the Bigfoot sightings.
Oh.
And my dumbass thought that Bigfoot was just one single entity, and I didn't know that there was a whole race of the big feet. I just didn't know. Okay, and so we're looking at the map, and it has these like hot spots of where all the sightings are. Okay.
Yeah.
And I start seeing a really familiar looking town on there that has all of the hot spots. And I look and I get closer and I get closer and I'm like, honey, why do we live in Bigfoot America? Because apparently our town is like one of the biggest hotspots for sightings. So
Oh my
I'm like,
god.
honestly, they probably just saw Bert walking around out there. I don't like I just like there was a picture in there that he took his hair down, and you know what he looks like with the beard and the hair,
Yeah.
and he looked just like the drawing of Bigfoot. And I was like, oh my god, this is hilarious, is what this is. So,
That's
maybe
amazing.
another destination for you guys. Go down to the Bigfoot Museum in Georgia because wow, what a fun time. So we have 10 minutes left, and you
Okay.
know what we have to do now.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's lightning time, the slowest lightning
Okay.
round that ever existed, right?
Yeah.
There's always anecdotal comments that come with everything. So, are you ready, Cat,
Ready.
for the lightning round? Okay. I did some ghost theme ones because I
Okay.
wanted to. I speaking of Bert, here he
Hi.
is with flowers for me. Oh,
Oh.
honey, thank you. Okay, lightning round time.
Like it.
Okay.
Lord have mercy. Okay, would you rather spend a night alone in a haunted mansion or have to sleep in a graveyard for a week?
Night alone in a haunted mansion.
For sure. Like a bonus
Yeah.
if it's haunted. Like, yeah.
Yeah. That
Okay.
just sounds fun.
Yeah, no.
I'm
That's
just into that one.
like that's anniversary next year. Like that's
Yeah.
that's let's go. Okay. Would you rather be able to see ghosts but not be able to communicate with them, or communicate with ghosts but not be able to see them?
I think communicate with ghosts, but not be able to see them.
I like that. That way you can get the dish of what's happening in the afterlife.
Yeah.
I would
I'd be
like
too curious if I could just see them.
yeah.
Like
And
that'd drive me crazy.
I feel like that would be annoying too if they could it'd be like the oh, what's that movie where the thing pops up in the back all the time? No, oh, it's not Sinister. It's
Oh, Insidious?
Insidious. Yes. That I feel like it would be that shit if they were just
Yeah.
popping and like I don't want that, I want like
No.
Granny Joe. That would be fine. Okay. Would you rather live in a house where the objects move on their own, or where you hear strange noises at night?
I guess where the objects move on their own. That already kind of sounds like living with cats. So
Oh my god. A haunting of cats. That you need to write that. Oh my god. There was a panel at StokerCon that was all about cats in horror. And
oh,
I know you could have been on that panel.
dang
It was
it.
for you. I know. We're just gonna have to suggest that at a future con. Like
Yeah,
you got to be on the cat panel. Not bar
I
none.
do.
Bar none. Okay. Would you rather be a ghost hunter or a medium who can channel spirits?
I'd rather be a medium. I feel like I could be a ghost hunter if I wanted to be. Like, there aren't a lot of qualifications, whereas, like, a medium is a skill.
Like a ghost hunter university. Like
Yeah.
sign me up. I want to go. Oh my god. Okay. Would you rather attend a seance or explore abandoned ruins of an asylum?
I have done both of these things, so I feel like
Oh,
that disqualifies me.
it does. Okay, so which one do you recommend for the
I
uninitiated?
recommend a seance, I think, because I think and this is take this with a grain of salt. If you are like me, if you're someone who's prone to these things, the ambiance of a seance lasts a lot longer, I think, because once you leave the asylum, it's like, "Okay, that was a spooky thing I did." But if
Right.
if you attend, like, a very spooky seance, you're like, "Did we make contact with something? Is it in my house?
You're
Like,
like, is it
has it
following me?
followed me?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am so woo-woo in that respect. I feel like they would attach to me and I would just because we have a ghost that lives in our home and we call
Yeah.
it Ghosty and lives upstairs. And it was a stressful time for a while, but then I feel like it evened out and I'm like, I would just be inviting Ghosty some friends, but like evil ones or something. Like
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, no, that I would like to go to one of these Victorian themed seances though. They seem fun, but I'm too much of
So
a puss
fun.
right now. I just can't do it. Okay. Would you rather encounter the ghost of a famous historical figure or a loved one who has passed away?
Oh, definitely a famous historical figure, right? Like, I
Yes. Yes.
right,
I feel like the de facto answer, people what like they think they need to say family member. I'm like, no, historical figure.
mm,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, what are you like, that's a story, right? Like,
Like I know my family member's story. I don't need to talk to them. I'm good.
yeah.
Would you rather? This one is weird. Would you
Okay.
rather be haunted by a ghost of a child or an elderly person?
Oh boy, I guess an elderly person. Living kids freak me out sometimes. I don't want I don't want like a spooky
I don't want the
ghost
dead ones
child in my room.
either. You need a shirt that says "Living kids freak me out." Like, I just give me the dead ones. That living ones are no good, no bueno.
Yeah.
Okay, would you rather face the theorized ends of the universe or have a terrifying cryptid encounter?
Oh, I so I guess I'd rather have a cryptid encounter. Um,
You wouldn't be terrified though. You'd be like, "Welcome."
no. I'd be
Like,
like, "Hey,
let's
this
go hang
is
out together.
cool."
I gotta find out all the things. I love that. Okay,
Again, I think it's about the story though. Like, if the world ends, who are you gonna tell that story to, you
very
know?
true.
You're
Very
gonna
true.
be sad and alone.
Lame. Very lame. Yeah. So, haunted space station or haunted village on another planet?
Ooh, haunted village on another planet, I think.
For sure. For sure. Another
That
planet.
sounds really
Oh,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
That I feel like that. There you go. Short story idea, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Last one. Become an alien and never return to Earth, or have an alien best friend, but they only eat humans.
I mean, this sounds like a win-win, right?
Honestly, I mean, but you don't get to pick the humans.
That is dangerous.
Yeah,
I do think I'd want to become an alien. I like the idea that aliens exist and that's, something to ascend to.
yeah.
Like,
That's my hope. I'm like, let's not even think about the afterlife, whatever. I'm like, I'm trying to go be some celestial being, okay? Like,
yeah.
go see other planets and situations because, yeah, surely this ain't it. This ain't all it. Surely. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Plus,
I
you don't wanna be out hunting cryptids and then your best friend, like, needs a snack and you don't even make it to the cryptid, you're just
just like,
best
oh,
friend
okay.
alien food.
Like, well, I guess I have to sacrifice myself because you're hungry, bro. Like, no, that's not what
No.
we're doing. No, no, I definitely, if an alien came to me, I would be like, beam me up, Scotty. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
travel. Let's go see what else is out there for sure. So,
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I love, love, love having you on the pod, Kat. Thank you for joining me once again.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Yes, and so everyone needs to go buy My Apologies to Tanya Grace, available in all formats, right?
Yeah.
Paperback, ebook. Is there an audiobook yet or no? Do we
Not
know?
an audiobook
Not
yet,
an
but
audiobook yet. Okay. Something maybe to look forward to then on
yes.
June 15th, right?
Yes, June
Okay.
15th.
Awesome. Awesome. Always a pleasure, Kat. Thank you. And for all of my mothlings, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week, 6 o'clock. Let's fly to the flame. Bye, everybody.